Hello, hello, hello. Good morning from the desert of Arizona. So happy to be here with you all. My name is Laurelann Porter, and I'm a shamanic artist. And today I'm going to share with you a little bit about what shamanic artistry is and how you might be able to develop that within yourself. So the very first thing I would like to do is I would like to open sacred space just to help ensure that we are at a really good space, calling in our guides and ancestors and holy helpers to be here with us today. To the winds of the south. Ooh, such a mama. Such a mama, great serpent. Come and wrap your coils of light around us. Teach us to shed our past the way you shed your skin all at once. Teach us to walk the beauty way, always seeing beauty, beauty in front of us, beauty behind us, beauty below us, beauty above us, beauty on either side of us, beauty within us, and beauty without us. Aho. To the winds of the west. Ooh, Torongo. Otorongo, mother, sister, jaguar. Come into this medicine space and protect us. Teach us the way beyond death, across the rainbow bridge and back, so that we may walk our destined path with courage and integrity. Aho. To the winds of the north. Ooh, Siwarkente. Siwarkente, royal hummingbird. Come into this medicine space and teach us to drink only from the nectar of life. Teach us to find stillness even in motion. And teach us to find and navigate our own mythic map. And we call upon the ancestors of the land upon which we stand, our intellectual and blood lineage ancestors, all those who have come before and all those who will come after, our children's children. Come and be present with us. Share your wisdom with us so that we may always honor you with our words and actions. Aho. To the winds of the east. Ooh, great eagle. Great eagle, condor, urubu, raven, all those who come from the land of the rising sun, the place of our becoming. Come into this medicine space and teach us to soar, flying wing to wing with great spirit, and hold us under your wings when we falter. Teach us to feel that connection to source, to all that is, and to see with eagle eyes, so that we may walk our path with clarity. Aho. Mother Earth, Pachamama, Mother Gaia, the one who always supports us, from whom all life comes, to whom all life must return. Thank you, Mother, for your loving embrace. Help us to be in Aini with all creation, with the plant kingdom, the stone kingdom, the animal kingdom, and our fellow two-leggeds, so that we may always live in right relationship and model that right relationship so that future generations may live abundant, joyful lives. Aho. Father Sun and Grandmother Moon and all of our Star Nation brothers and sisters, you who are known by 1,000 names and you who cannot be named, watch over us, illuminate our pathways so that we may always follow the light. Aho. So that is the way I learned how to open sacred space according to the shamans of the Andes, and I trained with the Four Winds Society. And the first thing I want to do with you today is I want you to allow your consciousness to float back in your memories, float back to your childhood and just allow yourself to remember what were the things that truly delighted you. What were the activities that you really loved doing? What are the creative things you enjoyed? Did you enjoy drawing? Did you enjoy painting? Did you enjoy singing? Did you enjoy dancing? Did you enjoy digging in the dirt with a stick and making pictures out of it? Did you enjoy sculpting things out of mud? Did you enjoy cooking and baking and gardening? Just imagine, remember, what were the things that really, truly delighted you when you were still so innocent and fresh before the world got its hands on you? And what I want you to do is I want you to just sort of allow that memory and allow that joy to influence everything we do today, because that is the key to your own particular version of shamanic artistry, your own particular flavor. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. After I hydrate, I'm in the desert after all. And when I started walking this path of shamanic energy medicine, I was actually in a very dark place. And before I even arrived at shamanism, I had to go through some very deep sort of self-reflection and observation of what was going on in my reality, how were my inherited beliefs and attitudes disempowering me rather than empowering me. And one of the modes that I worked with was ancestral medicine. And I worked with a woman who, she's been doing ancestral lineage repair for a very long time. And in one of our early sessions, there was a message that came through from my ancestors, and it came through in just a very simple little way that I barely even thought anything of it. The message was, don't forget to sing. And I thought, oh, well, okay, of course I want to sing. I grew up singing. My whole family is musical. It's that same old story. I grew up singing in church every Sunday. And as the youngest in the family, I didn't always get to choose what part I would sing. And so I sang soprano, alto, all the harmonies, all the melodies, everything in between. So I had a lot of practice at singing. And I just thought, I even asked my guide, I said, oh, I wonder what that means. And she said, oh, well, usually it means that when we want to call in the element of air, our very breath and our very voice is the most potent element of air to bring in. You can also do that with incense and sage, but singing can be a really powerful way to call in the element of air. So then I just started singing in my healing sessions as I was developing my practice in shamanic energy medicine. And every time I would do that, people would say, oh, keep singing. It really is so powerful when you sing, in addition to what you do with the shamanism. So I said, okay, great, I'll just keep singing. Then, as I had provided for myself 1 year of an artistic residency. I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time. I thought I was just trying to find myself. But I spent 1 year in Brazil. I've been to Brazil many, many times. I've lived there. I know the culture. I know the language. And every time I didn't know what to do, I was drawn to music. And every time I said, Spirit, just show me, just guide me, I was drawn to music. And I also was drawn to ayahuasca. And so when I did ayahuasca for the very first time, I also did it in conjunction with a shaman who his tribe has a medicine that they call hampaya. It's based on a pepper plant, and I call it the birdsong medicine. Because what this practice was, what this medicine was it was the way of channeling through our songs. And even though that ayahuasca experience and that birdsong medicine experience was incredibly powerful for me, I also know, I've been taught, and I know we don't actually need plant medicines. We can get to the same places without that. I just happen to really enjoy the sort of express route to it. But you don't have to. You can cultivate these things through your own meditative practices, your own creative practices. It just takes a little more patience, and it takes a bit of a willingness to really sit with your own mysteries. And the thing that I realized early on in this practice is that the two primary skills in shamanic energy medicine are intention and imagination. And I have all three of my advanced degrees in theater. And so I realized as an actor, as a performer, as an artist, intention and imagination, those are our greatest skills as well. And it's very easy to adapt those skills in creativity into shamanic healing. And when we learn shamanic healing and we develop our creative talents and we combine them together, it's so potent and so powerful and blissful and joyful. So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to share with you what is shamanic artistry. And the way I'm going to do that to start with is I'm going to share a song with you. And this song came through this week, literally just 2 days ago, I wrote this song. And the reason I'm here, well, there's lots of reasons I'm here in Arizona, but one of my purposes while I'm here in Arizona is I decided to re-enter the medicine wheel, and I wanted to do 21 days in the desert. 21 days in the desert, re-entering the South, and in the South is where we learn to shed our past. And usually we do that by identifying 3 different life issues. And it just so happens that the song that came through last week and the life issue that it was reflecting was a need to find better ways to quiet the monkey mind. I'm sure there's plenty of you that can relate to that. Well, this week, the healing that came through, and I wasn't quite sure what the life issue was going to be, but the healing that came through in the form of this song was a call to really embrace my status as a crone, my status as a wise elder. And I think all of us, if you're over 50 like I am, it's time for us to step into that role. The world needs us to step into that role. The earth needs us to step into that role. Half of the healing that I do is not for a client. It's for my home, my community, and my planet. And so I really hope that all of you will find this so delicious enough and joyful and blissful enough that you'll want to do it for your own homes and communities and the earth. So this song, which I'm calling it Silver Moon Song. And I'm just gonna sneak over here, and I'm hoping that the internet is beautiful and does not turn all of the video into really choppy ugliness, because I'm going to play this song for you and sing it. Here we go. I thought I saw Rhiannon on a horse with the wind in her hair. Her golden light had faded, she was silvery and pale. The sparrows around her head, singing of their messages of hope, showing me the way to be free, untethered by the rope. The withered roses in my desert garden, so frail and beautiful in the early morning, lying dead on the desert floor, they show the power of the sun. While I dream of Rhiannon in a silver moon song, my ancient Celtic ancestors wouldn't know what to do in the desert here. Rattlesnakes and scorpions try to keep us living in fear. The ants keep marching on and on and on, gathering food for a winter that never comes. The withered roses in my desert garden, so frail and beautiful in the early morning, lying dead on the desert sun, they show the power of the sun. While I dream of Rhiannon in the light of a silver moon song, I'm a Celtic goddess trapped in the body of a desert rat. I've weathered all these storms, I tell you I'm not going back. I've held my lovers tenderly and tilled the dry soil of this place. My beauty comes from the wisdom of every single line on my face. The withered roses in my desert garden, so frail and beautiful in the early morning, lying dead on the desert floor, they show the power of the sun. While I dream of Rhiannon in the light of a silver moon song. Okay, let's close that out and come back over here. Wonderful. Okay. So that song, which, again, one of the things that I discovered that I learned I have the ability to do is to do a shamanic healing on myself and have a song come through. And I started doing that when I was down in Brazil for the year of magical grieving, I might even call it the year of creative grieving. And, let me go back to my notes. I don't want to forget anything. So what I've done, and actually this whole reason I'm here doing this 21 days in the desert is a couple of months ago, I was starting to feel like my morning practice had gotten a little lax and maybe had gotten a little kind of sloppy and gotten a little remiss. And I thought, okay, what can I do to help make sure that my daily practice doesn't get boring? It sounds like a really kind of silly, mundane question, but then the answer came through. The answer came through to turn it into a quest. And I think that in any of the situations in our lives, in any of the really deep questions and problems that face us, and even the questions and problems that are not quite so deep, turn it into a quest. And what happened to me is it was like a Sunday afternoon, and I just was like, I'm gonna smoke a bowl and meditate. And I didn't even think I was going to be doing a healing on myself. But spontaneously, this massive download came through. And it was the new structure for my butterfly bootcamp, which we had our beta last year. It was wonderful, it was fabulous. And I realized there were just a few little tweaks that needed to happen to the shape of it. And part of that shape is that I'm a recovering workaholic. My name is Laurelann Porter, and I'm a recovering workaholic. And so I had to learn how to build in breaks and rests. Because one thing I've learned in life is that you cannot go, and never stop. You have to take breaks. So the way I've structured the Butterfly Bootcamp model is we'll do 21 days releasing the past, and that is the work that we do in the South. Then we take a little break. Then we spend 21 days facing death. And when we face death in the West, there are three things that we have to do. We have to heal the past life in which we suffered the most. And when we do that, we are healing our inner victim. And then we have to face the past life in which we had the most power and we abused it. And that is how we heal our inner perpetrator. And then we spend 7 days healing the past life in which we had the most power and we used it for good. And that is how we heal our inner rescuer. Because if any of you have been through the drama triangle, you know that once you do one role, you have to play all three until you learn how to heal all three of those. And so that is the work of the West. And then we take a break. And then we do what I call 21 days in the cocoon. The program is called Butterfly Bootcamp after all. And so we must have a cocoon, right? And I also just want to shout out to, I think her name was Jennifer Radiance on the first day of the Spiritual Growth Forum this time. She talked about what the caterpillar teaches us. And it was so clear to me when she talked about the ways that nature shows us the metaphors that we can use in our own lives for healing and balance and transformation. I was like, this is it. So in the cocoon, that's where we do the work of the deep shadow work and dream work. So we spend 21 days really engaging with our shadow and really engaging with our dream work, including our nightmare figures. Because what I learned in my training with the Pacifica Graduate Institute in dream tending, I'm a level 2 certified dream tender, is that the way to heal our nightmares is to take that nightmare figure and just take a homeopathic dose of it and bring it into our world so that we can have the strength of that without having the poison of it. And there's one example I'll use. When a person has had nightmares of, let's say, a very sort of aggressive, monster-like, abusive figure, chances are there was a figure like that in the person's life in their childhood. So maybe you had an overbearing father figure, or maybe you grew up in a political environment where it was all toxic masculinity. I think a lot of us can relate to that. And when you look at that and you see, I can take a tiny dose of that aggressive monster-like behavior, and I can use it to give me just enough assertiveness to stand up for myself, that's the medicine that's in the things that we might call poison. And I was actually literally talking about this the other day with someone I care about. We just happened to mention, I'm here in the United States, and so there's a certain ex-president running for president again. And when I looked at him, I was like, pardon my French, but what the fuck is going on? Why is this guy still around, right? And I realized, okay, so he's this sort of grotesque narcissist, right? And yet, how many of us are too afraid to toot our own horn because we're afraid we're going to be like that? We're not going to be like that if all we do is take a tiny little homeopathic dose of that and we allow ourselves to use it just to shine a little bit more brightly. Not that we want to brag, not that we want to say, everybody look at me, look at me, look at me. But if you've been hiding your light, take a look at that shadow figure and see how you can bring just a tiny, tiny little homeopathic dose of that shadow projection into your own world to give you just a little more confidence to shine a little more brightly. So that is the work of the cocoon. Then we go into the work of the North. And in the North is the archetype of the hummingbird. And the hummingbird is the one who teaches us we don't have to spend all our time in the dung heap of life working through all those old wounds. We can get to the point where we only drink from the nectar of life. And the hummingbird also helps us to navigate our mythic map to help us find our power and path and purpose. And there's a really powerful ceremony that we do in shamanic energy medicine to help call that in. It's called the Huaca ceremony, and it's part of something that they call indigenous alchemy. And so when we go into the North, we are preparing for the Huaca ceremony for indigenous alchemy. And in that ceremony of indigenous alchemy of Huaca, we look back at our lives, at all of the various roles we've played. It might be the role of teacher. It might be the role of caregiver. It might be the role of workaholic. It might be the role of addict. It might be the role of abuser. It might be the role of victim. It might be any of the roles that you have found yourself inhabiting at any point in your life. Through this waka ceremony, we are able to call in a quantum leap of soul evolution to release those things and put ourselves onto closer to our path and purpose. Then when we get to the East, we spend 21 days working on divination and death rites. So there's all sorts of different kinds of oracles, and each person has their own particular gift and flavor for accessing intuition and divination. For me personally, I find that the tarot is one of my best counsels for divination. Some people do an oracle that is based in stones and crystals. Some people have an oracle that is based in plants. Some people have an oracle that is based in the I Ching. Whatever you feel called to do, this is where we get to explore that. And it's also where we learn the shamanic death rites. And I had no idea that the shamanic death rites were going to actually be one of the key components of my healing practice. And it's the healing practice that I do it for clients once in a while, but most of the time I do the death rites for, I'm getting emotional. When I sense that there are souls around me that need to release, it's my obligation to help them do that. Nobody pays me, it's just the work that I do to help clean the environment where we are. I think I'm getting a call that I have to go home and do that tonight. So, when we have done all that, the South releasing the past, the West facing death, the North finding our path and purpose, the East divination and death rites, then it's time to learn how to write your own mythology. When we learn how to write our own mythology, we are actively co-creating our life. And this is the work of Butterfly Bootcamp. This is the work of Shamanic Artistry. And so I think they're going to put a link here in just a minute, which is a link for you to get on my calendar for free, no obligation, on a discovery call. Even if you don't think that Butterfly Bootcamp is the right program for you, I am absolutely committed to helping people find their own flavor of creativity, divinely sourced creativity. So whatever is your situation, get on a call with me. Let's figure out how I can support you, because the world needs you to shine your light so brightly. So get on a call with me. It's absolutely free, no obligation. Let's have a conversation. Butterfly Bootcamp begins, I'm actually going to put a different screen up here for a moment. So Butterfly Bootcamp begins in October, which is just next month. So get on my calendar right away if you can. It includes full training in the shamanic energy medicine of the Four Winds Society. And the Four Winds Society is the foundation formed by Alberto Villoldo, who spent decades in the Andes and in the Amazon with the shamans of Peru developing his craft. And what they told him is that it's time for the world to receive this wisdom. It's time for the world to receive this. And so it's 6 months of training and then an additional 6 months of support in my shaman's office hours. And what we do is we create this sacred community container where we can be vulnerable enough to do the deep work of transforming into our most magical selves. So I encourage you, please, 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 book a call, get on my calendar. I would love to support you as you become your own butterfly, as you grow your own butterfly wings, turning your pain and your wounds into beauty. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you soon.